The question is the House to agree with the Commons in their Amendment 17.
My Lords, I rise to speak to motions 259A to 271A inclusive, and your Lordship's House will be pleased to know that I'm not intending to speak to each one individually, because for technical reasons these had to be split up, but essentially this is again a chance for your Lordship's House to reconsider the whole great British nuclear introduction that the Noble Lord the Minister just outlined. Now, this debate follows on in many ways from that secured last Thursday by the Noble Lord Howell of Guildford about the whole issue of nuclear power, and I'm not going to revisit all of the many issues raised there, although I will note that the Noble Lord, Lord Howell, then expressed, I think, rightful and strong scepticism about the progress both of Hinkley C and Sizewell C, both on cost and other factors. Of course, there's also the continuing issue of the cost of the clean-up of last century's, this dinosaur technology from the last century of £260 billion, and issues of waste, of course, that we've still not tackled. Now, I said I wasn't going to go through these amendments step by step, but I do particularly want to speak to Amendment 262A, which is disagreeing with the financial assistance. Now, the Noble Lord the Minister, yesterday in our discussion on the failure of the offshore wind contract for difference bidding process, was saying to me that he thought that I was suggesting that we should be looking at a higher strike price for offshore wind, was not thinking about the bill payer. Well, I'm afraid, my Lords, I don't know how many members of your Lordship's House have looked closely at the detail of the Government Amendment 262, but it is utterly an open slather. The Secretary of State may provide financial assistance to facilitate the design, construction, commissioning and operation of nuclear energy generation. Section 2 may be provided by way of grant, loan, guarantee or indemnity, the acquisition of shares, the acquisition of assets, a contract, or incurring expenditure for the benefit of the persons affected. The assistance may be considered without interest. It goes on and on. I won't go through the whole lot. But basically this is allowing the Secretary of State, the open slather, to do whatever they like to fund nuclear. And if there's one thing we know about nuclear energy generation, is it costs, and the cost just keeps going up and up and up. And I'm afraid there's a great deal of speculation currently. Many people are accepting that essentially Hinkley C and Sizewell C are ongoing disasters, but we have this new wonderful idea of small-scale nuclear plants, as a Noble Lord suggested in last Thursday's debate, scattered all over the countryside. I mean, really, my Lords, how realistic is this? We are talking about something that simply does not scale down. So I'm very aware of the desire of your Lordship's House to move on to votes, but I do just want to quote one person who perhaps comes from a different perspective to myself, Marcus Kreber, the Chief Executive of RWE, who's suggesting that investors should not and will not back nuclear plants. And this comes back to the issue of finance. If there's not going to be private money coming in, we are talking about massive sums of government money. He told the Australian Financial Review, and I quote, "I would have a big question mark over whether building new ones is really a good strategy, because if you look at the cost overruns and the delays, I think purely a renewable-based energy system, including the necessary storage, is probably in most regions already today cheaper than new nuclear." And I think that's actually unarguable. And I will just also very briefly address the issue of Sizewell C. And the fact is that we're talking as Japanese fishermen around the Fukushima nuclear plant are suffering massive economic loss as a result of dumping of wastewater there into the sea. What we're seeing is Suffolk, the local economy, facing massive loss if Sizewell C goes ahead. Studies by the Suffolk Coast Destination Management Organisation showed visitors would stay away, losing the tourism industry up to £40 million a year, an estimate of 400 jobs. We look at the environmental impacts of the proposed Sizewell C. It's opposed by both the RSPB and the Suffolk Wildlife Trust. It's surrounded by protected wildlife habitats. When it comes to water, the Planning Inspectorate was unable to recommend Sizewell C be granted planning consent due to the lack of an identified long-term supply of potable water. There's a huge problem in terms of access to the site. It will require a 60-metre cut-off wall so it can be dewatered, an existing soil swapped out for more suitable material, and huge, as yet undesigned sea defences. And we know what's happening when we look at the state of our climate now, the way in which we are seeing significant runaway with potential very serious risks in terms of the impact on our sea levels. And I note that CFAS said it's generally only possible to predict detailed changes to the coastline over the next 10 years. My Lords, I focus a little on Sizewell C and the deep uncertainties and concern because I come back to the point about money. What we are doing under the government's amendment is letting a government go ahead to do whatever it likes, to spend whatever it likes on a project which is so deeply, deeply problematical.